Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Being Human Now show. I'm your host, Jennifer Locksmith, and today we have special co host Sam Chandler back with us for a second time. Hello, Sam. Welcome. And
Hello.
we're both very excited and psyched to have Ashlea Stinnett with us, who is a fellow experiencer, a fellow spiritual warrior. I hope you don't mind me saying that, Ashley, but you are. And I'm so grateful for you and that you're speaking out. And you have been experiencing Sasquatch since 2013 and a lot of other very powerful, magical stuff. And welcome. I'm so glad to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Sam. I super appreciate this gathering and having this digital campfire together. It's a beautiful opportunity. So let's explore.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. So, is there anything else you'd like the audience to know about you if they may not have heard of you before?
Sure. So uh, my name's Ashley, and I started having connections with the Sasquatch people in 2013. I moved up to the Pacific Northwest in 2010, and I had paranormal UFO activity throughout my life. It wasn't something that I focused in on. It wasn't something um, that I really like dove into and started asking questions about. It was just, oh, I had these experiences. I might have always been a little bit more on the edge of society and more of if you think like the punk rock of the world, there's a little bit more questioning, there's potentially a little more wider range of experience and worldview, but I wasn't asking like those deeper questions when those experiences happened. Fast forward to 2010 and moving up here with my family to the Pacific Northwest, it became very, very prominent activity in my life, especially the UFO stuff. And so I did start asking those questions. It was around 2008 that something internally started happening with me to where I was looking for, I was asking bigger questions. I was looking for bigger answers, and it drew me to come up here and start a new adventure. And through that, all of this UFO activity was like also occurring, and so I had to learn about that, and that really developed this again broader understanding of this realm, and then that like that also opened up more education and more time developing newer questions and diving as deep as I could into any topic that at this point I was finding interesting and worthy of my attention. And so that's going to open you up, right? And I wasn't afraid of asking questions, and I really wasn't afraid of having experiences or having someone present a different type of reality to me. There wasn't that immediate shutdown that happens so often where we're like, oh no, that's not real. I had more of a curiosity of like, okay, wow, that could be a thing. Oh, what's that about? So so yeah, like from like 2010 to 2013, massive amounts of UFO activity and orb activity. And I started learning about orbs, and I started doing orb photography, and I'm getting them in the house. And we moved up here and we rented this house that was on the gorge, on the like right before the entrance of the gorge on the Oregon side. And we were up at the top of this hill, and so this really glorious house had this like half-acre backyard. There was it was slope that went down, and we had a deck on the second story. And we could see out to Washington and all of the river and all of the sky. And we were getting Sasquatch gifts at that point, my partner and I. But we didn't know what was going on. We thought it was the crows. In the middle of the backyard, there was an island of like a lot of like really thick ivy, like ground ivy. And there was a stump out there. and we'd find marbles, we'd find old cars and like toys from the 70s, and the marbles were old, like 100-year-old marbles,
Oh my gosh.
um, and we just thought they were the birds because we didn't really know that that was a thing with the Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Um, but it was always just like so mysterious and beautiful when they'd pop up. So 2013, I had my first experience with the Sasquatch people near Mount Adams, and I hit the ground running with that. I'd kind of already had this like massive download, spiritual awakening situation from 2008, explosion in 2010, and then culminating into this new chapter of walking with the Sasquatch in 2013. And that included learning as much as I could from other people who understood them from a higher perspective. At this point, the people that I was interacting with were people who had contact with extra dimensional, ultra dimensional, higher dimensional beings of all sorts, right? So the information that I'm gleaning from these people about the Sasquatch, when they're talking about their higher dimensional state, that they are a people, that they are not these monsters that have been created within the human psyche over the last, however many decades, not that long. And it really actually didn't take a lot of time for us to get back to the truth, right? When we think about that.
Mm.
So, so I was getting like a higher education with the Sasquatch from ground level first, like interaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm camping with other people who are at that level, and I'm looking at the books that are at that level, and that is culminating up until 2018 when I go on my first camp out with Barb Shoop. I had found Barb through YouTube and was a huge fan of all the videos. They were so educational, they were so spot on. I had so much appreciation for all these people who were just telling the truth. How beautiful, right?
Yeah.
Just telling the truth.
Yeah.
So I connected with her on Facebook, and very soon after that, she put out a call to anyone who wanted to join the campouts. And so I wrote my 500-word essay. I was accepted into the group, and June of 2018, I go on my first campout with her and the group. And this is out in Greenwater at the main camp where like it all started, besides her
Mm-hmm.
cabin, but like where the gatherings started. And it's a super, super special place. And that first camp out literally changed my life in the
Mm-hmm.
highest of ways, because it began a domino process of healing some of my biggest wounds, emotionally, physically, spiritually, through the contact and through the asking of a relationship and of a friendship, and it was a small gesture on my part, potentially, of just kind of like, what I had asked was, I had asked for healing. When I got to the camp, Barb told me, she was like, if you have anything to say to them, just speak it, and you don't even have to use words, you can just tell them in your mind, just let them know. And so I did. I looked out into the woods, out into the trees, and I said, please help me heal that which I need to heal. And I said it in that way because I still had a lot of shame surrounding what I needed to heal. And in this very naked state of presentation of all of us, all of me, of who I am, and all of my flaws, and all of those things that created this individual now, I'm asking for a little help, and if it could happen, thank you.
Yeah.
And what came from like that simple yet very complex request is still occurring. The reverberations of that are still occurring.
Yeah. They
And
embraced you and they've never let go. Yeah.
it's, yeah, you know, the bonds we have uh
Mm-hmm.
with them, with each other, you know, it it makes more sense to me that they are in a position for us, uh to encourage us to remember who we are, right? Like, it's not necessary. Like, sure, all the contact, all the experiences, all the connections are phenomenal. They're amazing. They're humbling. You know, they'll bring you to your knees. I've been brought to my knees, you know, but them orchestrating us into finding our inner healing and our inner strength and our inner community, and watching us build what we get to build in this reality, in our worlds, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's, it seems like, at least maybe at this point, that's more of like a focal point, right? It
Yes.
we we've kind of already, like, we established the connection and the communication. They're with us always.
Mm-hmm.
And this role is more of like the encouragement of us, you know, like, look what you can do with yourself, look what you can do here, and look how powerful you are, you know, like, look what happens when you heal, look what happens when you get on this path of service to humanity, to yourself, to your family, um and how much that spreads out. What glorious, beautiful messages, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And now we know why the powers that shouldn't be are trying to tell us they're monsters, right? And all these scary stories. It's not at all the way it is. So,
Exactly. You know, a fully realized human, is not something that you can control, and not something that you can traumatize.
yeah.
And we live in a world where an evil empire that is very apparent, very, very apparent, especially when you use your discernment and you see with your eyes, you know, when you see with your eye,
Mhm.
the the thing that's playing out, the narrative, you know, we can look at this, this outer narrative, and if we think of it as that, it's very separate from us, right? It's a narrative, and it's a reflection of some of a sort, but it's not a reflection of who we are within. It's not a reflection of who humanity is at its core. It is a reflection of our trauma. And, you know, the empire absolutely will use the worst types of tools that are the most effective, and generational trauma, uh, just the trauma upon a people, you know, the trauma upon a person, the creations of situations that breed trauma. Well, now you've got a broken individual, and that person's very easy to control and manipulate. And we see that a lot in this world.
Right.
It's very apparent. That's not all that's going on here, though, right?
Yeah.
And, and when we can separate ourselves from the narrative and go back to that, inner dialogue, and know that all of this stuff is going on out there, and this empire really wants us to take our focus and put it out onto this external, into these places where we really don't have power or say as to what goes on, right?
Yeah.
But emotionally, when we attach ourselves to that, it sways us just the same, right? And it looshes, it takes our energy away, right?
We're
So
paying our attention.
Yeah.
correct. We are paying our attention. We are
Yeah.
turning on our faucets for
Mm-hmm.
something that's so far away, you know?
Yeah.
So, one of the biggest gifts I think that the Sasquatch teach, again, is that, like, internal, like, go back within, like, see what you can do within your life, see what you can heal in your life, and see how big of a change it makes.
Mm-hmm.
Because literally that is what heals the world. It's not your anger or sadness or anguish over the narrative. It is what you do within your own life, and how much you pick up, you know, like the trash you pick up on your path. When you walk through the forest of your life, how much are you picking up? How much are you helping along the way? You know,
Mm-hmm. I love that analogy. That's amazing. Yeah, and then the more beautiful it is for ourselves and for others.
for the next generations, right? Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
So,
Yeah, awesome.
but
So,
in 2018, I started that journey, and through that, it's just been an opening of connection and community with this larger group of experiencers who've kind of centered around Barb and the Shoop Troop. And
yeah.
that's where Sam and I have been able to become friends through is through this camping group. And um, we a couple of years ago we had, I don't know, one of the craziest campouts I've ever had. Like,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
woo!
Do tell.
Oh my
It would
God.
have to be like a 10-part series.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my
um
goodness.
but it to me it's a testament of just how amazing it can get when you gather for the right reasons. And it's also like, an example of how powerful we are when we come together in love and unity, and when we come together to appreciate life and be really human with each other. I love the name of your show, because what does that look like when we are being human? Because when
Mm-hmm.
I see that, and when I think of that, and I see like the best examples of how we conduct ourselves, that's beautiful. That's like so glorious. It's a reflection of God. We are the children of a
Yes.
creator, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we're at the top tight, the potential tops of at least some sort of echelons and aspects. We were given the task to take care of others below us, other things below us, other beings below us.
Mm-hmm.
There's a responsibility that goes along with that. We've certainly shied away in many different ways, through giving away our consent to allowing others to take on that role. That aside, when we get back into that role of the highest place of being human, again, it's game over for evil. Like, we are the ones who build, we are the ones who nurture, we are the ones who create. What the music comes from us. The Sasquatch want to hear the music from us. you know we know how to express creation in ways that it really is mind-blowing, which also shows where our power lies, and where the inversion, right, like, has manipulated these places into into the opposite of that, because we're in this opposite world, right, the clown world of inversion. uh,
Mm-hmm.
but again, being human now, what are we are the children of the creator, and we are the creators. So
Yes.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're related to the Sasquatch people. So I think
Oh yeah.
you said, yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um, you said something really beautiful. Your talk at the Flash of Beauty conference was freaking amazing, by the way. My
Thank
bones
you.
were singing the whole time. There's just so much truth. Um, and one thing, I'm going to put the link, by the way, in the show notes so people can see Ashley's talk. It was amazing. You said this is a supernaturalistic world, and I just
Yes.
thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
The I have a friend, his name's Neil Kramer. I absolutely, everyone should go check out neilkramer.com. Through this, again, like, super evolved education that I received early on after moving up here, I met Neil, and we did, so I catered some of his events, and became very much a teacher of his work. And I had recently gone back to his website and looked at his definition for evil empire, and I was like, man, we really need to talk about this. Like, this is
Yeah.
really important to really, like, let that sink in. And what the concept is, and this supernaturalistic aspect. Okay, like we live in a supernatural world. That
Mm-hmm.
is the reality of this place. Even if it was just one ghost sighting one time in the history of the entireness of this magical realm, it would still be considered a supernatural realm. But that's not even the case, right? Like, we have, just go on YouTube. Are you kidding me? People are, for better or worse, like, connecting to all sorts of things on that supernatural spectrum.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's amping up. There is this, I think, an elevation of that connection, of the amount of connection, the types of connection, the portals that are being opened, both nefariously and for good, in this realm of this, whatever this Midgard is, or this middle
Mm-hmm.
ground, where we are subjected to the supernatural uh, world. We have
Yeah.
contact with it. We have a connection with it. They, on the other side, or in that category of the supernatural, can affect us. And
Mm-hmm.
that can come in again, that whole line of this, the whole spectrum, from like super rad awesome homies who come in and support, and they're of higher frequency and higher dimension, and man, that's awesome. And it goes all the way over to the other side too. And it's that other side. It's interesting for me because I just, like, I had a lot of exposure to possession, in, just, I guess, my life and
Mm-hmm.
my career path. At one point, I was working with a lot of mentally ill people, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. I'm living in a city now too that's like super rampant drug use and homelessness, and you cannot even drive throughout the city without seeing that expressed, like that really hardcore possession expressed through humans.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so so
Yeah.
we're in this supernatural world, um, and the flip side of that is the naturalistic world, which is, these two definitions. The naturalistic world is just nature, is that there's nothing else outside of the physical. There's nothing else outside of what we can see and what we can touch, and whatever, that strange non-reality that
Yeah.
gets pushed, right? It gets super, super pushed, that everything is just naturalistic. When in reality, it is a supernaturalistic world. We are subject to the entire uh, spectrum of the supernatural, and we have an evil empire that is at the top places of power and influence, that are using supernaturalistic forces of their own to make us believe that we are in a naturalistic world.
Mm-hmm.
So that is effed up, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and and it's rampant, right?
Yes.
When I said that I came up here and I started doing my own studies, I'm now like 15 years into a deep dive into the esoteric, into the occult, into the mystery schools, into all of that, right? I have an eye for the magical at this point, and I can
Mm-hmm.
see when ritual is done. We all can see that at this point. So
Yeah.
when we see these major large scale rituals happening, and knowing that, hey, this negative evil empire will go to such extremes as to invoke the evil supernaturalistic realm to come in here and just completely destroy us, and then flip it and say it's a natural world, and then it's all your fault.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-uh. No. So yeah, like, let's talk about that, and let's use our discernment. Let's see the ritual for what it is, and let's not get ensnared in
Yeah.
any the narratives in any of those chapters. We create our own books, right? Like
Yes.
we are walking this, and this is so powerful.
Hmm.
It's so big that we have the entirety of the Sasquatch people and the star people on the sidelines encouraging us to have this conversation right now. That
Yes.
power, it's that powerful. We are that much, that power is within us.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, exactly. I love that. And how much money they spend just to affect us the way they do. That's how powerful and special we are.
they're
And
losing.
they're losing and they're gonna lose.
Yeah.
And
They
they
are.
know it.
Yeah.
Did you ever think that in your lifetime you would see the self implosion of Hollywood,
Mm.
or the self implosion of politics, or the self implosion of these institutions and corporations that have been raping and pillaging the earth and humanity, to watch them eat their own tail?
Right.
It's becoming so apparent right now what is good and what is evil. And that can, it's interesting because like I'm not taking on an affiliation to any party or anything like that. We can see it's beyond all of that, right?
Right.
Like
It's a
these
show.
facades are falling, they're crumbling away,
Yep.
Hmm.
and we're seeing it in our lifetimes. We're participating in the chipping away of that facade, you know.
Yes.
So incredible times.
Incredible
Yeah.
times.
And it's
Yeah.
happening so fast too. It's
It
just
is.
like 2012 kicked it off like warp speed, really. Because it started off a little bit slow, and then it's just, man, it's just speeding up so fast. This past couple years, especially, have just been like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun to watch. I'll say that much. Like it sucks to be in the middle of it sometimes, but it's fun to watch.
It's a wild ride, man.
Yeah.
Like, and we signed up to be here. We signed up, you know, I don't think we were just like willy-nilly thrown here, and we just happenstance have found ourselves here.
Yeah.
This realm, whatever it is, this realm of physicality, we're it's a mystery. It is such a mystery. It's a beautiful mystery, and it's one that we participate in
Mhm.
um willfully when we and it's this mystery of will, right? Like we have this aspect of free will in this world where anything and everything can come at us, and we have an evil empire above us trying to do some shit, and then we can actually make bad decisions ourselves for
Yeah.
ourselves and for the rest of our family and whatever, and like
Hmm.
we can do all of it. We can literally do it all here. Find inner salvation, find inner peace, find, you know, all of these beautiful aspects of it as well. Move through it, experience it all. There's purpose, you know, there's massive purpose for this place. It's not a big jumbled mess. It's literally flowing exactly how it is supposed to. And that has nothing to do with what the big narrative is doing. It has to do with what we're doing. And what we're doing, like Sam just said, this uptick, right? This massive uptick in a short amount of time. Even just this last 5 to 10 years, what has occurred with you, you know, like with your development? Because I think like for me and a lot of people that I know, even just the last 5 years have been like pedal to the metal, you
Yeah.
know.
Right.
So, and that goes in alignment with the connections that we have to the higher dimensionals who are making themselves known more and more and more to us, to other people. They are creating bridges and aspects for us to get in contact with each other. They're helping spin that web of community. And
Hmm.
and so, you know, when we fast forward from 2025 to 2030, what is going to be going on?
Yeah.
Right.
What kind of beautiful experience can we create in 5 years if just in the last 5 years of us just finding each other,
Right.
what we've
Hmm.
been able to accomplish?
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, how many of their plans? It's Agenda 2030. So I feel like something, I don't know if the veil's going to be gone or what, but they definitely have a deadline, and 2030 seems to be a pretty big deal. I think this summer is going to be a big deal, quite frankly. I don't know if you guys are feeling it. I feel like something big's coming this summer. I don't know what it is. I don't, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just
I
fate.
feel like the next 2 years, I say like by 2027. I don't know why I have that date in my head, but between now and 2027, I think it's going to be like really escalated. I don't know how, how it's going to play out, but it's going to be interesting to watch. I just hope it doesn't suck too bad. I mean, even though we did sign up for it, I just, uh, it is what it is. We'll see how it goes, but man, it's really interesting to watch it. And I remember when I started my awakening process was probably around 2010, 2011, and I went straight into like doom and gloom, conspiracy theory, they're gonna strip away all of our rights and we're gonna live in concentration camps, and they're gonna kill us all and all that stuff. And I went through that for like a year or two, like, and that sucked. Now that I look back on it, like that fear of like they're gonna just, all the stuff. And I see a lot of people going through that stage right now, especially in the past couple of years, and the empire's using that to manipulate people even further, right? They're grasping hold of the fear dynamic of it, and and I mean, we all love a good conspiracy theory, but now they're manufacturing them to capture that fear thing, right? Because there's such that like massive dark night of the soul going on with everybody, and they're like using that against. So I mean, I love a conspiracy theory, man, but damn, it sucks because they're like taking the fun out of them now. You know what I mean? They're just like, so. Yeah, I think between like now and say like 2027 or 2030 is when
Hmm.
people are going to step out of the fear part and that narrative of it and start realizing, getting their own power back and realizing that like we come here with all the power, right? They just start taking it away from us and tricking us into giving it away to them. And then once more people start taking their power back and realizing how powerful they are as a human, as a sovereign being, like that's when it's going to be. I'm just going to sit somewhere and just watch it and laugh,
Yeah.
like, has anyone seen Donnie Darko?
Oh, years ago.
Okay, there's like a scene at the end where he comes back to right before it's gonna give away some stuff, but anyways, there's
It's
a part
okay.
where like he knows something's gonna happen and he's just laughing hysterically because he's just like, whatever, I don't care anymore. That's how I feel like I'm getting to that point where I'm just gonna sit on a mountain and just watch it all crumble and laugh. But
It's that middle balanced path, right? Of not having an emotional connection to the end of the story. That's
right,
not why we're here. We're
right,
not here to have an emotional connection to the end of the story. We're here to create our own personal chapters. And you brought up Donnie Darko. I thought of this movie too. What is it? It's a Beautiful Life with like that French
yeah,
actor,
right,
right?
hmm
So in that movie, it's like concentration camp. This father and son have to go to a concentration camp, and the entire time, the father creates a separate reality for the young boy. So
yeah,
the destruction and the chaos are swirling around him, but he has absolutely no idea because why? Because the father brought like the fun into the scenario.
hmm
um I think that's kind of happening with us too. That could be like, bring that out into a larger level, with this with the teachings of Jesus or Buddha or any of these greats who are talking about this world as being like, you're in it, but you're not of it, you
right,
know. This thing, don't attach yourself too much, right? Stay in that middle ground, stay in that balanced, um, objective, detached, discerned, uh, perspective of your experience in this. And then again, like, hey, what can I do inside? What can
Right.
I change in these little places where I go every day in
Right.
in in this thing we call the mundane? Because that that's not a that's not a real thing, right? Like that's another like construct of
Yeah.
empire, that there's some like mundane aspect of everyday life, or that we aren't literally interacting with God's incarnate, or like, just with the people that you are in that daily. We're all here. We all came into this physical. We all came from something phenomenal. We're all going back. It's time is not even part of this equation, and yet we got to go make a certain amount of weird dollars per hour to go give dollars to other things, and to do these things. But then it's like, no, that's not it. That's not a mundane aspect of reality. No, you're interacting with humans.
Mhm.
Like how are you going to energetically change a situation from negative to positive through your actions?
Yeah.
How are you going to conduct yourself, in the best ways in whatever scenario you find yourself in? And guess what? We fail daily at that, right? Like we fail daily at um, being able to be at that high spot all the time. So,
Yeah.
like, this mundane reality of every day is just opportunity after opportunity after opportunity for us to hone in and get back up into that higher place of spirituality and of balanced nature. What do the Sasquatch teach us if not that?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And these lessons that they are bringing forth to us, what are the top lessons? Love, compassion, unity,
Right.
family,
Right.
family values. I was thinking about this. Uh, I had done an interview at one point, and the question was asked of me, like, well, why are the Sasquatch higher beings? Like, what makes them so special as compared to us? And my answer to that was, I was like, well, they don't have government. They exist without government. They exist without healthcare. They exist without phone bills. They exist without shitty housing construction, and all of these things that are weird for humans, right? And then later, like just within the last couple of months, I had that interview like a year ago, and just within the last couple of months I started rethinking about that question and going, they don't have trauma, you know
Yeah.
like they don't place generational trauma onto the next generation. Could you imagine what that would look like in humans
Right.
if there was not the the transfer of trauma?
Yeah.
And and and, and when we get to that place, because every single one of us has trauma, like it builds us, it's part of us until it doesn't need to be, right? Like the Sasquatch don't have it because they don't need it as a lesson, right? But we're interacting with it in a certain way. But when one decides to step out of that cycle, it immediately stops.
Mhm.
Your children do not hold on to that anymore.
Yeah.
and
Right.
and and that is like eradicated from the earth's experience, from the mother's experience.
Right.
um so
And the ancestral line too. Like when you heal that, it heals the past, right?
yeah,
So
Mhm.
both
yeah.
directions, yeah.
Right.
Like
Right.
we're literally changing our histories through the non-transfer of trauma into the next generation.
Right.
That's how powerful the human is.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And we level up. I forget, was it you, Sam, or someone was talking about the more we heal, then the more our abilities come forward? Because it's like,
Yeah.
or
They
some, I heard
absolutely
that
do.
somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Yeah, when you let go of that stuff, it gives you the opportunity to vibrate higher because it's all a lower resonance vibration, right? So when you
Hmm.
heal, you're leveling up literally to
Yeah.
another octave. So
Yeah.
that aligns you with so many other things, but it opens you up to, it leaves space for those things to come in, and then you can realize, yeah, you kind of just step into it. You don't even like consciously know you're doing it. It just kind of like you just go up a level, and at that level is these powers and these things that you were totally unaware of beforehand.
Yeah. And what were they? Someone, and I'm trying to think of her name and I can't. It was a group, a team came up. And one thing they also talked about in the same vein was how important parasite cleanses are for us. They were talking about
Like
how it's important to do parasite cleanses and eat garlic and things like that.
like
Who was
physical
that?
parasites or
Yeah,
energetic
well,
parasites.
I mean both,
Oh,
really,
yeah,
but they
right.
were talking about physical. Oh, who was it? It was just at the conference. It was a team that came up.
Oh, Angelique. Is that who
Yes.
you're talking about? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Right.
And yeah, I think yeah, energetic and
Yeah.
physical as
Man,
well.
I can't remember who was. Do you remember? Crap, the guy that was with Angelique. I can't remember his name now.
Carlos.
Yeah, yeah, he was big on cleansing. He had
Yeah.
a lot of things that he mentioned for physical cleansing your body. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the physical body, the emotional body, the spiritual body, this trinity is all connected. And you know, that was known a long time ago within the ancient mystery schools, that
Right.
you never just looked at one aspect of that trinity and tried to heal it from that one angle. It had to be holistic with all of it. Um, and you know, even with parasite cleanses, you think they were doing that back in the 50s? You know, like I don't think they were doing
No.
parasite cleanses back in the 50s. I don't think that
Yeah.
they were. So that's not a long time ago,
Hmm.
75 years ago. And now we're back to this place where we are doing that, which was probably happening way back in the day because they knew that you had to do it all together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, the Baker City event was so cool and
Wish I could
so
have been there.
special. And most of us had never been to the city, pretty much
Yeah.
all of us, except for just a few locals who came in. Um, the town was I I have so many questions. I have so many questions
Yeah.
about that town. I can't wait
Yeah.
to go back. And that hotel, you know, that
Mhm.
hotel had a lot of energy going on, a lot of stuff going on. My room was super haunted. There was a lot of activity happening in it, like the first night. And then that first night there was so much noise. I internally I was like, how do they even rent this room out? This is crazy. There's so much noise. This is crazy. What's happening in the walls? Like, what is there, like a steam engine back there? I don't know what's going on, but this is, how do they even make money on this? The next night, no noise.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, there was
Nice.
none. And then there was a woman's perfume, like an old time floral perfume, as if someone just sprayed it as you like every time I walked into my room.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, there was, and it seemed definitely like energetically portally, you know, it was kind of, a lot was going on. And
Yeah.
a really cool thing that happened, and it doesn't matter how many times it happens, it's going to surprise you every time. It's going to lift your heart up every time, to where you, my gosh, you know, here we go again. But I got up there and I might have been a little nervous. And it's funny, I listened to the playback, and I guess when I get a little nervous, I might sound a little angry. I thought I was yelling at everyone, so I'm glad you said that it sounded okay and that I had
That was
some.
great.
It was amazing.
That was
Okay,
great. Yeah.
thanks. Um,
No, it was
it
perfect. It set the tone. You're like, because you were the opener, so it just set the tone, and everyone was like, "Oh
Yeah,
yeah," like you
it
know,
was a lot, right? It was a lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
information, but it was good.
Yeah.
And that whole event, just it's really special to me. it's gonna be in my heart space for forever as one of my favorites.
Right.
And for this part too. So I was up on the stage area and I was giving my presentation, and I I was comfortable. I didn't feel as if anyone was near me, like in a higher dimensional state. I definitely can feel the Sasquatch when they're around, like if they want me to feel when they're around, when I'm camping or whatever, but I didn't get that feeling when I was on stage. And I got done with my presentation and I went outside to get some fresh air. So this little room is like really you just kind of make a little U-turn and you can get out to the front door. And that's also where I had my truck parked on the street. So kind of at like the 5 o'clock mark from my truck. And as I left the building, I'm walking this way. And then right in front of my path, I step right in front of an ouchless black hair tie. And I threw my head up in the sky and just started laughing because there's a really big story behind the ouchless black hair tie. Last September in Greenwater at the first place that I camped with Barb Shoop in that same area, last September, I had my first physical sighting of a juvenile. I also brought into camp a dear friend of mine that we recently reconnected. And she's been having some Sasquatch activity and curiosity. And so I invited her into camp and she was able to stay for a couple of nights, 3 days, 2 nights type of thing. And on one of the first days that she was there, we were down at the base camp, and where we had camped, she camped next to my campsite, and my campsite was up the hill over the Forest Service Road on the other side, tucked into a corner. And we were down in this valley area where the base camp is and where all the other campers were. And one of the other campers needed a hair tie. And she was like, oh, I don't know where my hair tie is. And I don't know where it's at. You know, does anyone have a hair tie? And my friend took the hair tie that was out of her hair and she gave it to the other camper. And this small act of compassion and kindness was absolutely like recognized by the Sasquatch people. And I think it was that night that my friend went back up to her car, and behind her car, like in that 5 o'clock position, or it was next to the passenger door on the ground, was an ouchless hair tie from the forest. It was covered in dirt.
My God.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
So she sees this and she shows me, and we're just having hoots and hollers about it. You know, how fun. They gave her back a hair tie, right?
Yeah.
So the camp ends. The camp ends, and my friend goes back to her life and her home, and I go back to mine. And she is a flight attendant. So she's in the air a lot, and she's doing a lot of layovers in New York and in Europe and all of that. It was a few weeks after that camp, I get a message from her because she got a black ouchless hair tie at the threshold of her cottage in Paris.
Oh my
And then she came
Wow.
back home and she went to the store. Okay, wait, I got to back up. So she gets that one in Paris, right?
Yeah.
So a few months ago, I work at this place, and it's got a pretty large parking lot. And off in the corner were about four giant old Douglas firs. And it was actually Douglas firs and a couple of other trees that were older than Douglas firs. It was a different kind of fir, according to the tree guy. Well, I went into work one morning and I saw that one of those Douglas firs had fallen down across the entirety of the parking lot. And it also fell right on top of where I parked every day.
Uh,
And
Oh
so
my God.
when I pulled into the parking lot, my stomach boom, it just dropped, right? Because I was
Yeah.
like, oh man, like that. I mean, this tree was massive. So, like we get the owner of the business got a tree guy out there. He looked at it. We were able to or they were able to kind of get everything uh, slightly put into one place. When the tree fell, boom, it hit everything. It also missed the food truck. They have a food truck. It's a restaurant, and they've got a big food truck that's always parked out there, and it missed it by like that much, right? And
Oh
Mm.
my
it
God.
also missed like the entire like 5 bay garage that's connected to it too. So there was no like major damage done at all. We find out from the tree guy that it had root rot. It could have gone at any point. That
Right.
tree could have gone at any point in time. And when he did that first evaluation of it, he also said, those other trees have root rot. Y'all need to get those like taken care of, getting them taken down, because they're going to go. The next big windstorm we have, those are down. So there was a lag time between that tree falling down and then like the other trees getting taken down.
Mhm.
And then of course I wasn't parking anywhere near the trees.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it was the day that the other trees were being taken down, which was like at my highest level of anxiety over it, until I saw the dudes coming in. I was like, okay, fine. Like they're finally taking care of this. But what did I find next to my truck in the 5 o'clock spot? A black Ouch's hair tie.
Oh my God.
So then I sent the message to my friend. I said, I found a black Ouch's hair tie out here and all this stuff is happening. They're telling me it's okay. So she went to the grocery store. She was like going into the grocery store. And when she came out, she had a black Ouch's hair tie next to her car.
It's their calling card.
Right.
Oh
So
my
then,
God.
so then fast forward to Baker City. I go outside after my talk and I find a black Ouch's hair tie on the sidewalk. And it was also like in the spot like where it created a circle around a cross of the concrete coming together.
Oh
Mm.
my God.
Yeah.
So then, a couple hours later, I find out that both Sam and Angelique saw a very large Sasquatch standing next to me um,
Oh my
while I
God.
was speaking. And he was in this energetic state. And when Sam described his facial features, that matches the facial features of the Greenwater clan, where the black ouchless hair tie originated.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I saw him while you were talking. He was in the corner behind you, and the only reason I could really see him was because the way the corner was, and there was a light on the wall right on the corner. So it where the corner was, it was like one side of the one wall was a lighter color, and the other wall was a little bit darker. And I could see him because the way he was, I could see him in the difference between the colors of the lighting on the walls. I don't know if that makes sense. So it created like this shadow effect from the features on his face, where he was on one side of the wall, or where the corner was on one wall, he was like, I couldn't see him, but then I could see the other side of his face in transition for the darker wall. And then when I focused on that one, my eyes adjusted enough that I could see this full face. And he was I like after the conference that day, Jeff Roan and I went across the street with Chris and Tobe and Jennifer, and we all had a beer. And I was explaining to Jeff how big he was. He was I was sitting there while you were talking. At one point, I was trying to calculate about how big his face was, and his face was four of your heads, four of your faces.
Oh my God.
And he was kind of like he would get up to the top where the corner and the ceiling met, and then he would have to look down, and I saw him have to bend, like crouch down at the ceiling because he was so big. And he was there for you, and then he was there for Angelique too. And I didn't even realize Angelique noticed him until she sat down after she talked, and she was like, there was something very big beside me in that corner, and I was like, yeah, I know, I saw him. Uh, and then he was there for most of the first half, and then when we left for lunch and we came back, and Jeff was talking, and there was another one that came in. Not the same one, but the one that was then when like Jeff was talking and towards the end of the afternoon had he had like a long beard, like a wizard's beard,
Oh, wow.
and his face was a little bit more narrow and longer, but he was more like human looking. But yeah, the one that was there when you were talking, he was very like the male that I saw here in 2020. They have a very similar, like kind of primal. I guess it would. I don't want to say the patty type because their noses are very. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, they're very like primal looking. Not apish at all, but just like a primal man.
Like
Look.
aborigine, like an aboriginal.
Yes and no. The noses were a little different. The noses are more not as I don't know how to explain it. Aboriginal noses that I've seen and the one I saw in North Carolina, the noses are kind of flat, but they're like roundish at the nostrils. These have like more of like the angles of the nostrils come out to like a point, almost like a triangle, if you will. And so they're not as bubbly or round. They're still as broad, but they're more of like a chiseled. Everything on the face is very chiseled and handsome looking, if that makes sense. Like
Like a pointy nose?
I wish okay, well the one I saw in 2020, it wasn't pointy, but he did have like a little button tip on it at the very end of it.
Like
So it kind of
upturned?
yeah, like it was just like this little bump on the
Hmm.
tip of his nose. And if so has anyone there's a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot museum in Georgia. I believe it's called like Expedition Bigfoot. Not the show, but it's like there's like a museum there, and I believe that's the name of it. But it's up near like Ellijay, and their emblem that they have, their logo, it's similar to that. So if anyone wants to like look at that after the show, that's kind of what it is. It's very it's not apish, but it's very like ancient man.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very cool. I guess that first one had to go to the chiropractor, so he had to bow out. Just
Yeah.
kidding. That's about
It
to
was because
I'm gonna
that's
squish into
actually
that little room.
that's what caught my eye was that I could see him and he had when he like crunched down, it was when I saw his face move.
Hmm.
Anyways, yeah, really cool.
Um, I just something popped in my head when you were just to go back before we change the subject. The gesture of the original gesture of your friend giving that scrunchie was love, right? Essentially, which is something they tell us about. And I recently heard someone say something really profound, and I'll never forget it. And it popped in my head when you were telling the story. Um, God loves us through each other. And especially when you said it was around like a cross thing. And it's almost like, yes, it's their calling card for you, but also remember to love each other, I feel like is also the message there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's true. And that's what, like, when I was saying earlier about the mundane in this world, there is none because everything external in your life is just you in your personal communication and dialogue with God,
Hmm.
like that's it.
Yeah.
And that's it for every single one of us, uniquely and beautifully, like offered to us individually. But like we share that, and it unifies us, but it also like individuates us, and it reunites us again in
Yeah.
this phenomenal experience of a conversation with God through a physical incarnation.
Yeah.
Right.
And I feel like the
Well,
supernatural world is like reminding us of that. Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah. And if you think about them with those in higher dimensional supernatural experiences, they haven't lost that, right? There seems to
Hmm.
they seem to have like been able to hold on to that memory, hold on to that literal frequency of a higher and closer relationship with God through their conduct, through their thoughts.
Hmm.
through their actions.
Yeah.
It's so goofy to think about like how, you know, um, how we're supposed to like experience disclosure through government, right? That's
Right.
laughable. That's
Yeah.
laughable,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
I don't trust liars. And I'm certainly not going to trust a liar with something this higher dimensional.
Hmm.
You know,
Oh
absolutely
yeah.
not. I'll trust my friend. I'll trust people that I know. I'll trust people that I love. I'll trust people in my community. That's who
Yeah.
I trust, and that's who I know who's talking the truth and walking the truth and walking in the correct way with this. I will never seek any type of out external disclosure from entities and corporate scenarios or government scenarios for something so personal. No
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, in the movies growing up, right? Anytime there's like an alien invasion or whatever, they always say like, "What's the first thing that ETs say when they come here?" Right? Take us to your leader or whatever. Like, come on, who? The reality of that happening, as if they don't know who the leaders are. That's the last people they're going to want to have contact with. But it also plays those movies also play into the fear dynamic of it, where they like it programs us into thinking that every ET encounter or alien is going to be an invasion, and we need the government to keep us safe. And it's
Yep.
always this fear dynamic. But
Hmm.
that's not gonna, I mean, it happens person to person, like on a personable level, where like they're gonna come to each individual and present themselves to whoever's ready. That's how disclosure happens. It happens like one person at a time, to a point where it gets to a point where they will do like a mass showing. But in the meantime, they have to make sure that every person, or at least like a good majority of the people, are going to be open to the reality that they're not here to take over the world. They're here to awaken us to our true selves and our true identities of who we are, and then we can take back over um the world, I guess you could say, when we can take it back from the false narratives that's been like perpetrated on us for so long. Because if you think about, they still find tribes in the Amazon, that have no human contact, and they have no idea the dumb shit that we're going through on a daily basis, because it's really irrelevant to being here. We're just here in the middle of this narrative, and there's like micro narratives everywhere, and they're just out there in the jungle, like just connected with the earth, connected with mother, living their lives where we're supposed to be, um, and where we're going to go back to eventually. But yeah, it is comical to think that uh, the government is going to have any part of disclosure for us.
Yeah. No, it's us that's going to do it. And we
Yeah,
are doing it.
yeah,
Um, okay, so I know we're coming down. We're going on an hour now. Do you have time, Ashley? Just tell us, I don't know, Sam, I know you're on lunch break. Tell us what happened to you this morning before you go and before we
yeah.
tell everyone how to find you, because I'm really curious as to what happened this morning, if you don't mind sharing.
Absolutely. And thank you again for both of you for having this conversation. I really appreciate it. I think we really hit on some awesome topics, and I'm excited to do it again.
Yes. Me too, me too. I'm so
Me
grateful you're
Yeah.
too.
here.
Yeah.
And I know that the Sasquatch are excited too, because this morning I left this morning and I took my partner to work, and when I came home, I've got this really amazing tree on the outside of my front yard, and I have a wrought iron fence that super cool, but it goes around the entirety of the yard. And then there's this tree on the outside, and there's a little like long garden box that goes across the front, right? So I got home today, and in that front garden box area, there's a pretty large bush that goes higher than the fence. And as I'm walking through the fence, I look over, and there's a very large branch from this tree that's been shoved into the side of this of this bush, but it's sticking out like in the yard. So if you were to have this stick, you'd have to be inside the yard to hit it from that angle and to drive it into this bush.
Mhm.
So I'm looking at it, and I've had activity at this tree before. I'll get leaners, I'll get glyphs, I'll get lots of different little reminders from them from this very special tree. And so I'm looking at it, and I get inside, and I'm looking inside where it's come through, and I notice that it is under very thick large branches of this bush. It didn't fall from up top and somehow maneuver itself down there, but absolutely there's some force of someone who took this branch that wasn't laying down or anything when we came through in the morning. I didn't see any big branches on the ground. But now there's a bush, or there's a big branch that's stuck in, it's like 5 feet long, stuck into the side of this bush.
God.
So I went and I looked at it, and I'm laughing and I'm loving it. And I'm taking some video, and I come back inside and just loving it, right? And I'm like, I'm gonna go back out and see if there's anything else there. So there's a side entrance on this gate, and there's a front entrance, and there's 2 steps down to get into the front part of the front yard, outside of that gate. So I go that direction, and I step down the steps, and then I look, and there's moss all along, real nice thick moss. I don't like taking moss off. It's pretty. So there's this nice blanket of moss that's on the bottom front facing part of this concrete step. And I look, and on the left hand side, there's a very specific piece that's been removed, and it's been taken all the way down to the concrete. And I'm looking around, and I cannot find that piece. It's like it was picked off. It was oval in shape, and that piece is gone. And then over here on the right hand side, there was another piece where it looked like potentially 2 fingers came down and pulled part of the moss away, and it flapped down off of the moss that was still connected. So this flap was down, and it was again down to the bare concrete. And when I brought the phone down to get a better video of it, I realized it was in the shape of a heart.
Oh. Oh.
It was in the shape of a heart.
I love that.
And then I'm looking, and then just like right in front, nowhere else, but right in front of these 2 spots on the moss are 2 sticks that are pointing at them.
Oh, wow.
So, and all of that is like within steps of each other. It's also right next to, on the left-hand side of where this garden box, this concrete garden box that goes all along the way. I have rock cairns that I stack up on there. And I made a tiny Sasquatch structure out of twigs and sticks, just as an energetic holding space, and a little homage to their work and my appreciation for them. And I've just kind of kept that there for, I think it's been about a year and a half or 2 years that I've been doing the little structure, and I've had the cairns up for the entire time we've been here. So it's like that was right there. The top rock at the very front cairn, which had the largest rocks, that was removed, and it was setting on the other side of this very delicate, made out of sticks, tiny structure, teepee structure. And that actually happened a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, how in the world did that top rock just like roll through and not disrupt the little structure that I made? How did it get on the other side of that? And it was a mental note on that. But then this morning, yeah, and this happens. This is now, this is a pattern of behavior. So things that will occur with me speaking out about the Sasquatch and my experiences about them, I'll get encouragement from them.
Yeah.
And that encouragement comes in many different forms. And I get encouragement from the star people as well. They
Hmm.
make themselves known after I do an interview and I go outside that night. They'll do a flyover. 9 times out of 10, I'll get that flyover. I'll get that power up. Um, and then when Sasquatch is the subject, then these beautiful calling cards are left saying, yeah, we know that you're talking.
Yeah.
We hear you.
Yeah.
We're encouraging you.
Yeah.
Uh, and and then something else that is occurring, and you've had your own experiences too, but even people who I'm talking to have never had experiences start having experiences,
Mhm.
right? So
Hmm.
like us talking about this, and then the expansion of that within other people, it's allowing that to come in, and there's interaction happening there. And on audio, on the audio, on the visuals of my presentations or my interviews and stuff, like there's weird glitchies and there's whistles and there's other things that can be heard that, how did I get a whistle in this podcast that I did when I was sitting in my room and there was absolutely no other noises happening and I was speaking through my headphone microphone? How did I get a whistle? Where did that come from? Right. So they're
Hmm.
constantly with us. They are with us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They're listening to us. They're obviously 1,000% part of this process as well. Um,
Yeah.
and the encouragement is there. The encouragement is there. And then, you are having these experiences. I'm having these experiences.
Hmm.
We are all having these experiences, and they are bettering our
Yeah.
lives. So
Yes. And it's going to pick up. We're on our way, you guys. I'm excited.
we're
Yeah.
here.
Me
We're
too.
here. All right. So, just in closing, thank you so much for sharing that. And that's awesome.
Oh, and I guess just like real quick to all of
Yeah.
your listeners,
Yeah.
go check out A Flash of Beauty. Flash of Beauty, Paranormal Bigfoot. Also, Bigfoot Revealed, Flash of Beauty, Bigfoot Revealed. You can find all of that plus extended interviews of the most phenomenal kind
Hmm.
Yeah.
over at the YouTube channel of A Flash of Beauty. What Jill and Brett and Michael are doing is historic, not only for us, but like literally for the history of humanity. What Barb Shoop is doing is for the history of humanity. What we are doing here now is for the history. So like absolutely go check that out.
Yes. And you
Yep.
were on there too. I forgot to mention that, but you had an awesome interview on there too. And you have a YouTube channel,
I do.
correct? You
Yeah,
take
if
people on
you
adventures and show
I
them. Yeah.
Yeah, there's my YouTube channel. If you look up Crypto Cryptid 1487 or just my name, Ashlea Stinnett, spelled Ashlea, and then last name Stinnett. I document my campouts, and then there's also a playlist of other interviews and collaborations that I've done.
Beautiful. Perfect. Thank you both so much for being here today. I'm excited
Thank
to do
you.
it again. And
Yes.
bye, everybody. I'll talk to everybody soon. Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye. Bye.